Well, hello out there. This is the Marvelous One, Marvelous Mark talking to you. And yesterday was the 33-year anniversary of the inaugural Clash of Champions show, and which was being held for free TV on WTBS at the time. And that it was going up against WrestleMania 4, which was being held the same day on pay-per-view from Trump Tower in Atlantic City, New Jersey. But not talking about WrestleMania 4 here. I'm going to talk about the original Clash of Champions. And the Schlegdaddy and I, we talked about this show it was probably about 7-8 years ago, I think it was. Well, what I will do is I will put the link in the description box to if you want to see what we both thought about it at the time. But I'm just going to kind of give a little bit of my own thoughts about this. I'm just going to kind of glance over the other 4 matches that are on the card. And beginning with the World Television Championship match, it was Mike Rotunda of the Varsity Club defending the title against Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin along with Precious. Garvin put up a good fight. It was billed as a college rules match where he only had to get a 1 count to get a pinfall, kind of like in amateur wrestling. But Rotunda was a good World Television Champion. One of the best. I think he's one of the best ones they ever had. And thought this was a very underrated match. And kind of an underlying storyline with this was it was the Kevin Sullivan and Precious thing. That Kevin Sullivan had a thing for Precious, but it was a really decent opener, and it kind of kicked off what I thought was a really good card. And then next up, you had the United States Tag Team title match with the Midnight Express along with Jim Cornette defending against the Fantastics, who Schlegdaddy and I thought they were basically an Uber Light version of the Rock and Roll Express, which they really were. I mean, this was a pretty good feud as well for the Midnight Express with the Fantastics. And I mean, it's nothing like the all-time feud that they had with the Rock and Roll Express, but still, it was a pretty decent feud nonetheless. Midnight Express wins by disqualification, but it was a pretty decent second match there. And then you got to it was a 6-man Texas barbed wire match. Yeah, really in 1988, you really didn't see a lot of barbed wire matches. I mean, I think the UWF had a couple of them that I can recall, but it was the Road Warriors and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, baby, against the Powers of Pain, the Warlord and the Barbarian, and Ivan Koloff, along with Paul Jones. And I tell you what, the Road Warriors and Dusty Rhodes, baby, they didn't work by the hour. This match didn't even last 4 minutes. I mean, seriously, they just got in, got their shit done, and that was it. I mean, not much to say about this match really, except those. Normally, when you have some kind of a match like this, you don't really expect it to last too long, and this did not. And then you had for the World Tag Team Championship, you had Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson of the Four Horsemen defending against Barry Windham and Lex Luger. And I mean, this match only lasted it wasn't even a 10-minute match to be. I thought this match definitely could have gotten more time, but the action that was in this match, especially in the first 5 minutes, I mean, this was fast paced and it was very exciting. And then the finish came when J.J. Dillon was trying to get involved. He stuck up a chair which was meant for Lex Luger, but Arn Anderson ends up eating the chair, and Barry Windham and Lex Luger end up winning the tag team championships. But I think in retrospect, looking at this, it's like you would have thought that Luger and Windham would have had a longer reign with the titles, but this is just a catalyst for Barry Windham eventually joined the Four Horsemen, which really it was only about 2 or 3 weeks later, I believe. I believe it was at a television taping where Windham turns on Lex Luger and he ends up joining the Four Horsemen. And I think that version of the Four Horsemen with Barry Windham in it, I thought it was the best ever version of the Four Horsemen myself. Yeah, it wasn't the original version with Ole Anderson in it, but Ole was getting old at the time, and actually, I think he already was old at that time. But you had a much younger buck there in Barry Windham, and he made that group even better than what they were before. It was and looking back at it, my 20-year-old self, being a college student at that time, it's like, I mean, you got to remember, this was spring 1988. There was no social media back then. There was no internet. So when you had a turn like this, when you had a heel turn like this with Barry Windham, it's like, I was pretty shocked by this. I'm not going to lie. I really was. It was a pretty shocking heel turn at that time. But anyway, then you get to what the main event was. And this match was epic. I almost think, I don't know if for one match, I think it ranks right up there with the Flair Steamboat trilogy, which would happen in 1989 after Steamboat came back to the NWA. But this match was for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. The Nature Boy Ric Flair defending against Sting. There were five judges in for this match, but for the end of it, you only heard what three of the judges thought. One of them was NWA official Sandy Scott. There's promoter Gary Juster, who was a big promoter in the Baltimore area. Then you had the Penthouse Pet of the Year, Patty Mullen. But I'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But this, I think, was probably one of Flair's 5 best matches of all time. And I think it was definitely Sting's best match of all time. And if you're going up against a Big Four pay-per-view like what the WWF at the time was doing, it's like you had to come with all guns blazing, and boy, did they in this match. Flair at this time was almost 40 years old. He was still at the top of his game. He was in his 5th reign as NWA World's Champion. And he was defending against Sting, who was this young up-and-coming stud that they were bringing up. He wasn't even 30 years old at this time. But you could tell that eventually they were building Sting up to be this one of Flair's main challengers. And if you've seen one, of course you can make the argument that if you've seen one Ric Flair match, you've seen them all. But he made it work for him. I mean, part of the thing is with being the world's champion is you're trying to make the other guy look good as well. And Ric Flair really knew how to do that. He really knew how to make his challenger make like he had a real chance of beating him. That's just one of the things he did well. I mean, there are points in this match where you thought, oh my God, this young buck and Sting, he could really beat Ric Flair here. But normally with a world's championship match, it was a 1 hour time. It would have been a 1 hour time limit, but since this was on television, it was only a 45-minute time limit. Now, that was something that Jim Ross brought up as well, but it ends up going the time limit. It ends up going to the judges. You had Patty Mullen ruling the match for Flair. I believe it was Gary Juster that ruled the match for Sting, and Sandy Scott ruled it a draw. So it ended up being a draw, which meant that Ric Flair kept the title. But this was really Sting's coming out party of sorts, because with this match, I mean, I think it did like a 6.0 rating or something like that. This is something that we alluded to in our old video, but this was the match that really cemented Sting that he was going to be a major player going forward in the NWA, and eventually that he would become like the flagship bearer of WCW. He would become the franchise player, and you knew I mean, even in defeat, I mean, it basically put Sting on the map, is what it did. And to me, this match still stands up against the test of time. This is still my favorite match of all time. And if you have not watched this match before, either go on, I think somebody's still got it on YouTube, but go on WWE Network if you have it, or if you've signed up for Peacock. You can watch it on there as well, and I don't think it'll be edited. At least it shouldn't be. There's nothing that could be considered controversial on there or anything. So, but as far as what I thought about this whole show, it top to bottom, it was an excellent show. I mean, it was structured well. I mean, you had it's your semifinal match, the Luger and Wyndham winning the tag titles. That was a good match as well. But Flair and Sting, that had to be the main event of this, and it was by far one of my favorite matches of all time. I'm interested to see what you thought about this and that kind of thing. But anyway, this is Marvelous Mark signing off for now, and I'll talk to you all later.